Welcome back to Behavioral Finance. I'm Andy Kim, and here in this video, I'm going to talk about the childhood experience of the CEOs and the hobbies of the CEOs. How is it related to, associated with the company's financial performance or policies, strategic choices, and their stock return volatility? Okay, now childhood, okay, whatever you experienced in your 5 years old to 10 years old, that's very important. That has a significant impact throughout your life, right? Early childhood experience really matters a lot, okay? So childhood memories last long, and then Melanie and Tate, right? And their student, Jan, had a paper, okay? And titled The Depression Babies. The CEOs who experienced the Great Depression in their childhood, in the 1930s, right? The CEOs who are 5 years old to 10 years old during those 1930s and 40s, right? Great Depression era. Those guys tend to have no debt or lower amount of debt in their companies. Why? Because during their childhood experience, what must have they seen? They were like younger children and walking around, and everybody is poor, of course, but the guys who borrowed money previously, they went complete bankrupt, right? And then lived like beggar, like crazy. And then the parents must have told them and then say, don't borrow money, okay? It's dangerous. 영끌 빚투, no way, baby. Come on. You see the consequence over there, the beggar in the neighborhood. Or ourselves, we are so poor and in so much distress, right? And then that's part of the reason is because we borrowed certain amount of money. So let's never borrow anything and then live frugally, okay? Frugality built into their nature so that, even after they become CEOs in their corporate lives, right? They don't borrow money. That's this. And then in Korean study as well, the guys who who were 5 years old to 10 years old, right? During the East Asian financial crisis, 1997 to 1998, right? These guys tend to hate borrowing, okay? They don't borrow as much in credit card and things like that. What's the implication for fintech? Obvious, credit card issue. When were they born? Did they experience this kind of terrible financial crisis, right? Has some predictive power about your credit card business and banking business and things like that. And then Bernie, Bhagwat, and Rao, right, is the next paper. Not only bankruptcies or poverty, but also natural disaster is something people experience. And then, especially those who experienced the natural disaster during their early childhood, right? Let's see what happens. These guys delved into, right? Thousands of CEOs background checking, right? Google searching, and then all those things, right? How many slaves labored for this one? The RAs worked extremely hard, I guess. The CEOs that experienced earthquake, landslide, avalanche, hurricanes and tsunamis, but were not directly hit by them, right? It just barely passed through, right? And I watched that earthquake hitting my neighbor towns. Oh my God. And then the flood, right? Just wiping off, right? Not my home, but the neighboring town, right? This kind of guys will feel like what? I'm a lucky guy. I'm a lucky guy to survive that. I get hit by that, right? So feeling more lucky, and then this guy will have overconfidence, so overestimating their success probability going into the future throughout their lives, right? So the CEOs who did not get hit by natural disaster, but observed it in the town, right? They tend to borrow more and take more risk in their companies, in their management style, right? However, those who were directly hit by higher risk of those events, they show completely opposite effect. Oh, my home was hit by those natural disasters like earthquake and things like that. I become really risk averse, right? That's because of the early childhood experience. Nobody can help it, right? So this kind of CEOs tend not to borrow, right, in their company management, and the risk level is very low for this kind of companies. And then by this, they've been using the natural disaster related big data, and then they were hand collecting all those CEO related information. Nowadays, this kind of thing is available. And then, the next thing is about the CEO's hobbies, right? What kind of hobbies are we talking about? Well, piloting, right? The airplane driving, yes, and then these kind of things, right? Does it look risky or not? Well, there is a website, many websites actually, if you Google search it, bestliferates.org, which is an online life insurance brokerage in the US, right? It has a list of most dangerous hobbies that increase your insurance fee, life insurance fees, right? So it directly has an implication if you're interested in something called InsurTech, which is a fintech applied by insurance companies, right? Previously, I told you about the Tencent fintech related to property insurance. This is about life insurance partly. If your client has this kind of habits, their life insurance fees have to increase because higher probability of getting killed like that. Number one, piloting. If you are the pilot, right, you are running the risk of your life tremendously, actually. Plane crash. Miracle to survive, right? Anyway, and then scuba diving. Oh, is it a dangerous one? Okay. Shark bite. Yes. And the skydiving. Yeah, skydiving. And then base jump. What the heck is that? I'm going to come back to this one later. Hang gliding. It's about flying. Yeah. You're not a bird, right? Essentially, those flying related thing is usually more dangerous than not, right? And then what? Rock climbing. Rock climbing and cliffhanger. If you're wondering what rock climbing is like, watch the movie in YouTube, search for Cliffhanger, right? That was like 30 years ago. There was a movie by Sylvester Stallone and Cliffhanger. You will get some idea about what it is like. And motorcycling, 최민수 씨, right? I hope he gets better soon. Very dangerous, right? I understand many of you are doing your Arbeit, or what is that, the part-time work for delivery, but be careful, please protect yourself, and with your insurance, please make sure. I hope you don't do that delivery work, but some students have to do it. I pray for you, please. Be safe, please. Base jump, right? What is that base jump, by the way? B, building. Okay, 육산 building. And the Lotte World Tower. With the parachute, of course. If you don't have a parachute and jump, it's not a hobby. We call it suicide, right? But you have to think about this one. You know, the parachutes, even though you have it, it may not pop up in a timely manner. Antenna, like Damsan Tower antenna. Dangerous. S, span of a bridge. Tall bridge. And then with a parachute, please. Earth. What? Earth is a land? A cliff or a cave? There are some caves in Mexico or some places, you know, Himalayas, caves down there, 1,000 meters deep. Jumping with a parachute. Nobody can help you if you get hurt over there. Very dangerous. Jumping with your parachute on, but too low and quick. So we have to be careful. Rafting or bungee jump could also increase your life insurance rate. Bungee jumping. Oh my God. So if you're InsurTech guys, what would you do? Utilize the Fitbit and GPS kind of technologies to track everybody's movement. By the way, so getting back to pilot, right? Risky hobbies of the CEOs. Kane and McKeown, they went after thousands of CEOs' hobbies, right? In their Fortune magazine or Google searching, all these kind of things. And then there are some pilot license database, and then you match it with the CEOs' names, right? And the companies and addresses and things like that. So they identified tens of CEOs with pilot licenses and compared those guys with the guys without pilot licenses. And they found out that the CEOs with this hobby of flying aircraft, right? They increase firm risk significantly, increase financial leverage significantly, and then they do more M&As. M&A is a risky business. The 이혁진 대표님 told you about this last week, right? Merging two organizations, one with the other, okay? Think about your high school classes, right? Class number 1, class number 2. Class number 1, class number 2. If they merge together, what happens? Well, there could be cultural shock, and some students will maybe fighting against the other. 누가 짱이냐? And then all kinds of trouble can happen over there, okay? Disastrous. Could be disastrous. If the cultural fit is good, they will merge together in a nice and way like this, right? But we don't know where we will go, right? 대박 아니면 쪽박 after M&As, right? It could be very successful or it could be very dangerous, right? It could be very failure, okay? M&A is like this, very risky, okay? Do more M&As, right? If the CEO is more risk-seeking, which is proxied by this, you can measure with whether the CEO has pilot license or not, more exploratory or not. Having said that, let me draw your attention to a company called Micron Technology. This is not a Korean company. It's a US company. But if you don't know about this company, you are not Korean. You must be from North Korea. Why? Or let me take a step back. If you don't know Micron Technology, if you never heard about Micron Technology, you have never invested in South Korean stock market. Why? Why is it such a famous company in South Korea? Because of Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix. Samsung, if you believe Samsung is a handphone company, no, handphone is Apple. Come on. Samsung is DRAM company, chip company, semiconductor company, memory chip. That's their cash cow, absolute majority. Cell phone is for their brand management or something like that. Cash losing, rather. Not as much, at least, not as much for DRAM compared to DRAM. SK Hynix, down and out, that is DRAM company. Okay, DRAM, where is that? Well, that's about the memory chip I told you, right? And then, this memory chip, 20 years ago, global DRAM industry number one guy used to be Micron Technology, this company. And Samsung was number 2 or 3. And then SK Hynix, at that point, it was Hyundai Hynix, like number 3 guy, followers, right? So the Samsung and Hynix stock price, we could predict by just looking at the Micron Technologies, right? And then the Micron Technologies stock price, if you look at it, ever since 1987 until this year, crazy. Bottom is like a $1 or $2 worth, but if it goes up, 반도체 super cycle. This is the super cycle of DRAM industry. Heydays versus tank days, right? $90 to $9. 10 times the difference. Their production facility or management or all those things, right? They don't go away too much. Their facility is there, right? Their technology is there. But the price of the stock per share crazy, jumping high and low like this, going everywhere. Very extremely volatile. Why is that the case? The nature of the industry itself is a commodity industry. 농경사회 is it's like an agricultural product or commodities, right? Corn prices and rice prices, just like this. If you take pride, Korean students, in that we are IT company, IT industry dominated countries, take a second look. This is more like agricultural industries, like huge price volatility. Right? We are living in a AI oriented version of agricultural society. Samsung Electronics is the one, and SK Hynix is the one like this. Okay, people question these days. If you look at S&P 500, the US stock index, it goes up like ever higher and higher every day. But if you look at Korean stock market index, Kospi index, it's been doing badly ever since March of this year. Why is that the case? Well, ever since March of this year, this is Micron Technology, has been going down. Why? The DRAM supercycle switched to negative. This is commodity industry. 1 percentage point excess supply result in this kind of going down. And 1 percentage point excess demand going up like this. Crazy degree of volatility. And we are exposed, almost fully exposed, our whole economy. Samsung Electronics takes up about 25% of total market cap of whole Korea. It's like Nokia of Finland, like 20 years ago. And moreover, we have SK Hynix adding to that. So just by look at this Micron Technology, you can pretty much predict Kospi index movement. Okay. So whenever you want to talk about Korean stock market overall performance, I suggest that you have to exclude Samsung Electronics and then Hynix, right? Get out of there. And then for the rest of them, take the average and see what happens, right? Is it following closer to US? Going higher and higher? Maybe. I don't know. But one of the dominant factor is DRAM industry like this. So the industry nature seemed to invite this kind of, let's say, the CEOs, whose hobby was, the late Steve Appleton, was flying this kind of acrobatic piloting, right, of the planes, right? Eventually, unfortunately, he smashed into the buildings of the airport in Boise, Idaho in 2012, right? Rest in peace. But this is the degree of risk that DRAM industry is like, right? And the CEO who is going to lead this kind of industry need to have this kind of risk-seeking nature in him, right? And then the finding over here is that above and beyond this industry nature, there is a CEO factor that adds more and increases the risk even more, right, to this one, okay? So it goes together at the same time, and then CEO's impact is also there and additionally affecting the risk of the company. And that makes me turn back to Samsung Electronics CEO. The late Lee Kun-hee, right? The second generation of the chief of Samsung Group. It is well known that his hobby was running sports car, driving sports car, especially the racing car like this, Porsche, and then supercars, right? They going into the special track for him, right? Oh my goodness. Yeah, you wish you could have this. I wish I could have this Porsche, by the way. And then in car racing is obviously one of the sensation-seeking sports and then dangerous sports as well. And then that tells us about, this not as much as flying the airplanes, but other than that, it is dangerous enough, right? As a hobby for one person. And then another hobby that he had was wrestling, okay? Greco-Roman wrestling or freestyle wrestling, whatever it may be. During his high school days, he dared to fight against the chief guy, the 짱이야. And 네가 짱이야? Let me fight with you. And then, he had this kind of fighter spirit in Samsung Electronics. If you believe Samsung is like 모범생, only like polite guys and like perfect guys only, right? Scholarly, like very studying hard, and then the silent atmosphere over there. Not really. The chief guy had a totally different one inside him. The hobby was different. And that was, I think, going together well with the nature of DRAM industry. You see this volatility, right? And Samsung Electronics has been doing well when he was the chief. Now the new chief, I don't know. It's too much secretive. I don't know about him. Nobody discloses his hobby. This is not good for shareholders. We want to know about his hobbies as well. You have to make a database about it, right? It's about knowing your client, right? We have the right to know about the guy. And by the way, this guy, because of his hobby, he wanted to expand his business into car business, Samsung car, right? That's why you see a lot of Samsung cars running around in Korea. Okay, Renault Samsung, French / Korean one, and then the government stopped him because of the after the financial crisis. That was too much, right? So that's why. Anyway, executives off the job behavior and corporate culture and financial reporting also matters, right? We say there is an internal consistency in a personal life and professional life, right? CEOs, right? CEOs who has track record of personal violence, such as drunk driving, drugs, and domestic violence, etc., are more likely to be caught for domestic accounting, cosmetic accounting, and corporate outlaws, right? 안에서 새는 바가지 바깥에서 새다. It's like whatever, if your personal behavior is bad in your family life or personal life, that thing will show up again in the corporate life, and then the corporate structure will, show that, right? Your corporate outcome is bad. If you believe your personal life could be totally separate from your professional life, don't expect that, okay? If that happens, we call them psycho, right? CEOs who personally owns supercars, extravagant yachts, etc., are more likely to do fraudulent accounting in his or her company. Behavioral finance guys, I found out this result using big data. Okay, Davidson et al. I just forgot to put their years numbers over there. Anyway, so you can Google search this thing in your Google Scholar. How is it related to fintech, right? KYC, know your client. If you are a venture capital management, right? Or venture capitalist, if you are a venture capitalist or a private equity manager, you have a portfolio of companies that you invested in. Okay, your trillions of dollars, you have it, and then you put your money to a handful of number of companies, right? But to understand those companies that you invested, you have to pay attention to the CEO's childhood experience, CEO's hobbies, and CEO's personal misconduct as well, or their supercars or yachts and all these kind of extravagances, right? Watch out, right? And if you run around, other private life, just wait for that. Don't sleep, by the way. And then the private life matters, right? Rolls Royce. And the thing is, in 성북동 area near SKKU campus, there are many 회장님 or rich people living over here in 성북동 area. It's like one of the Beverly Hills kind of area in Korea. And then Parasite, right? The movie Parasite, 박사장댁 is nearby, I told you. And every now and then, in that narrow streets, I face those Rolls Royce. All of a sudden, oh my God, Rolls Royce, Bentley, I have to stop it. But the trouble is that most probably those guys driving those supercars, they are not buying those cars with their own money, legitimate money. No. They are buying it or renting it with their corporate money. And to support those kind of things, right, they will have to extract from somewhere. Where? Company money, the free cash flow. You have to be careful about that. And those guys, to make up for that, they have to do something fishy in their accounting anyway. Cosmetic accounting could be a consequence. You can see it by just looking at their cars. Yeah. And the last thing I want to tell you is about the recent finding using this Ashley Madison's hacked data. What is this, right? Well, Texas Austin, UT Austin, Professor John Griffin, his wife is Korean, by the way. And then he and his students got the data about Ashley Madison, which is about, here, you see it. Life is short, have an affair, oh my God. And then, get into that, members who, paid into this website to meet something, right? Walking on the wild side of your life, right? Those guys, they studied this one, especially in the context of the CEOs. Sorry for this Korean language over here, but the idea is like, if you believe your personal misconduct in the sexual life, right? That kind of things. Those guys who are subject to this kind of sexual temptation, that weakness against temptation shows up again in their personal life in the form of fraudulent accounting or lawsuit. They are subject to the class action lawsuit kind of things. They misconduct here and misconduct there, right? There is a internal consistency for within the person. Okay, that's their finding. If you believe, 영웅은 호색이라, like the superheroes tend to like, other gender, what is like a female, like whatever, right? And then the superheroes, they relax and have a lot of girlfriend, but their professional life will be okay. Wake up. This is a wake up call, right? So everybody has to be careful, right? Like you and me, and then everybody, right? I want to be careful about it too as well. But here's the research finding, right? The web of affairs getting hacked. Life is short. Have an affair. They say. Hackers hacked the website and obtained the membership database. Paid members, names and addresses, and phone numbers and email addresses, and credit card numbers. Payment history, profile, and things like that, right? Of course, to seduce the other side of, the person on the other side, you had to disclose your profiles, right? Hackers threatened and asked for ransom money, and the company said no, and they called up the FBI to investigate. In response, the hackers posted 9.7 gigabytes, posted or leaked, right? 9.7 gigabyte worth of data, customer data of Ashley Madison, which had 36 million persons on 36 million persons. Okay, August 19th, 2020, and then 1 million of them were American paid members, and then of course there were a lot of CEOs there. And then the attorneys or lawyers said okay to do the academic research to do with this data, and because the data was wide open to the public already. Yeah, I'm not sure about this date figure over here, but you can check it out later. Earlier than 2020, 2015 or something. I'm sorry about that. But anyway, CEOs in this, that were found out in the Ashley Madison's client list, right? The researchers merged data with the database of 1,500 largest U.S. publicly traded companies that had the compensation information of 15,360 top-level executives, the CEOs, CFOs, and COOs, text matching their names, and then the CEOs with digital footprint. Okay, what did I say? Paid. Yeah, paid membership in Ashley Madison are more likely to be subject to class action lawsuit or accounting restatement, cosmetic accounting. Why? They are weak in both sides of the temptation, no matter where they go. Yeah. the researchers also merged Ashley Madison data with the data of police misconduct, and they found a significant and positive association between the Ashley Madison membership, AM, not AH, AM membership, and the likelihood of police abuse, right? Policemen, corrupted policemen, right? They are more likely to be members of this Ashley Madison anyway. And then they also found a positive association with white-collar criminal record data of financial planners, right? A lot of you guys aspire to be financial planners, professional financial planners, but watch out. If you are weak to this personal life over there, temptation, you're more likely to commit white-collar crime. Ponzi scheme, insider trading, and fraud, etc., etc. If you believe your public life is completely insulated from your private life, think again, okay? Consistency is there. So the one who is weak in temptation in private life is also weak in public domain. And these guys tend to be more subject to Me Too kind of persecution kind of things. So we should beware all the time. Yeah. Okay, big tech is watching you, right? The eyes of truth are always watching you. Well, big tech is always watching you, watching us. Privacy issue is big indeed. But the digital footprint is a useful tool to understand the demand in any market, okay? That's where the fintech is going in. And for example, for Kakao, Bank, Pay, Taxi, Talk, and blah, 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 100 plus subsidiaries. That's where they are strong at, okay? So what you see over here is Song Gil-young, vice president of Daumsoft. I forgot the name of the current company name, but he's a star guy, Song Gil-young. In YouTube, you can see his lectures over there, right? 당신의 욕망이 여기에 보인다. It's like and then what is it? Don't just do it. Your every move is the message, right? His new book is there. What he says over in this book is like, whenever you try to do any business, don't just start it right away simply with your own intuition, but first observe the customers, potential customers, and try to understand them. But not just observing their behavior with your eyes, but by analyzing the data, big data first. Observe it first, and then make a decision to do it. Okay? Don't just simply start it. Okay? It doesn't mean don't interpret it like don't just do it. Stop doing anything. No. 그냥 하지 마. It's like it's not this. 그냥 하지를 말아라. It's like don't just start doing it, right? So that's the thing I suggest you to read in your reading pleasure, right? Anyway, so that's that for this week. So I hope you enjoyed my lecture. A lot of, you can say, digression into social setting instead of finance, but you realize that these are all connected through big data, and it's getting more informative. And 인문학, people say that the more you learn about AI in this generation of AI, you need a solid understanding of those liberal arts like psychology, human psychology, and then the history, and then philosophy, and all these kind of things. But this is essentially what it is about, right? Behavioral finance covers all those things, right? It's all getting mixed together, right? But to the degree the business majors need, this is, I think, just good start, right? Good start. So I hope you enjoyed it. And then next week, we're going to talk about achievement drive of this person. Achievement drive, excessive degree. And that's where, the class is, to me, that's going to be the most exciting one. And plus, we're going to talk about other alternative data like satellite data. How is it being applied in fintech as well as ESG kind of things internationally? Right, so wait for that. It's going to be super sexy. I hope so. But I have to lower down your expectation, but at the same time, it's very exciting. So that's that. And then, so see you later. Bye-bye.